Okay, so this is number 9 from lesson 5.3, and this is the way that we worked it in class. And I went back and forth on whether to do it this way or whether to do it using the other side, and I landed on this way because I felt like this had more of what you were more likely to instinctively think to do or remember to do, but I also want to work it the other way. So this is what we did for, we worked with the left-hand side to make it match the right-hand side. So what I want you to do is on this page in your ISN, if you just flip these notes up, and on the notebook paper that's underneath there, rewrite this part, and then we are going to work with this side to make it look like this side. Okay, I want you to see the other way. So while you are copying that down, I am going to erase all of this, and we're going to do it the other way. Okay, so one of the challenges with working with the right-hand side is that clearly I'm going to have to introduce something into this equation because there's not much that I can substitute for cosine that I think would be helpful. So here is one way to do this. We are going to work with the right-hand side. Oops, help if I had a pen. And with this being our goal. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite cosecant A plus cotangent A squared. So if I want to introduce something, and I already have the cosine there, cosine squared might be nice. Now that fraction, I can't change the value of it, so I can't just like go multiply something in there. I would have to multiply it by some value of 1, which means as long as it's a fraction and the numerator and the denominator are the same, I'm going to change what this looks like, but I'm not going to change the actual value. So what this is going to become then, or if I'll multiply this, I'm going to multiply it by the conjugate of the denominator, 1 plus cosine A over 1 plus cosine A. Okay? So in the numerator, I get 1 plus cosine A squared over, then this is a difference of squares, so that becomes 1 minus cosine squared A. So the denominator I went ahead and multiplied because it's a difference of squares, and you know, had I just put that in there, I might want to cancel this stuff out again. You've got to make sure you're not going in circles. But I know that I can substitute for this, I can substitute a sine squared. So I'm going to make this cosecant A plus cotangent A squared equals, and this is still going to be 1 plus cosine A squared. Maybe I'm going to need to multiply that out. Like, I'll figure that out in just a minute. Over, so 1 minus cosine squared is sine squared A. So one other thing that you need to be able to recognize algebraically is that you have this binomial squared. You also have this down here squared. So I can actually turn this into just one fraction that is squared. So cosecant A plus cotangent A squared equals, then this whole thing can be 1 plus cosine A over sine A and the whole fraction squared. And that would give me the same thing that I have right there. So I know in the end, I got to have some reciprocal and quotient stuff going on here, so I'm going to split that fraction. So I get cosecant A plus cotangent A squared equals, then this is going to be 1 over sine A plus cosine A over sine A quantity squared. Then cosecant A plus cotangent A squared equals, well, 1 over sine is cosecant plus cosine over sine is cotangent, and that is squared. Oh, and look, they match, and I am done. Okay? So, sure, it has less steps than the other way, but you have to know to introduce something, and introduce something that will actually get you somewhere along the way. Okay, so now We're going to look at this one other way, actually, because even if you think to add something in, and hopefully going from here to here made sense to you, I don't know that all of you would necessarily think to do that. So I'm going to back up to this step. So what I want you to do is, for the second way on that notebook paper, is for you to kind of recopy to here, or just make a note underneath and start with this step. That's fine too. Just kind of start with this step underneath and just show that we're going to start here and go a little bit differently. And let me erase this stuff then. Okay, so let's say that making that into a fraction squared like this just is not anything that would even enter your mind, which, you know, again, there's other ways. So instead, we could just multiply this out. So if we multiply this out, this is going to give me 1 plus 2 cosine A plus cosine squared A, all over sine squared A. So what I know is I need this in reciprocals and quotients. So I'm going to go ahead and split this fraction. So the left-hand side is going to be cosecant A plus cotangent A squared equals, and this is going to be 1 over sine squared A plus 2 cosine A over sine squared A plus cosine squared A over sine squared A. Okay, rewrite my left-hand side again. Cosecant A plus cotangent A squared. All right, so again, I know I want reciprocals and quotients. So the reciprocal of sine squared, well, that's going to be cosecant squared plus. Then the cosine over one of the sines is going to give me cotangent, and then I'll still have a 1 over sine, so this is going to give me 2 cotangent A cosecant A plus, then this cosine squared over sine squared is cotangent squared A. Left-hand side, cosecant A plus cotangent A squared. All right, so now on the right-hand side, I need to factor that. So regardless of which way you do this, you're going to have to be able to factor. You're going to have to be able to square binomials. Like, that's math. You've got to know how to do it. So this is my a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So that's very simply cosecant A plus cotangent A squared. Your factoring flowchart is on page 15 of your ISN. If you don't know those rules, you need to learn them. Okay, so there are 3 different ways to do that number 9. That might help you a little bit on your assignment if you got stuck on some.